Hey, food and mood community, this is Amy Fox. It's great to see you again on the 30-day Healthy Lifestyle Challenge. This is our second video, so if you haven't listened to the first one, that's a great place to start, or not. You can continue on with this and go listen to that first one whenever it's convenient. So in this short video, we're going to remind you of what we're trying to accomplish, or we will accomplish in this 30-day Healthy Lifestyle Challenge. And today we're going to focus on some of the tools in the kitchen that give us really helpful information so that we can make the right choices about what we're eating and how much of it. So we've got some nutrition basics here that we're covering, and then I'll also highlight some frequently asked questions. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can look at some information, and you can see them in my kitchen. So we're going to actually look at some food and talk again about some of those tools that can really help you be healthy. So bear with me one second as we share the screen. I am going to share right now this deck. All right, so it's popping up right here. I'll switch to presentation mode. All right, so again, the way we'll work through this short video is we'll recap what the 30-day Healthy Lifestyle Challenge is and some of our kind of framework around the program. We'll also look at nutrition labels and some of the key things we want to be looking for to make sure that we're making the right choices about how much and what type of food that we're eating. And then we'll also look at another important tool in the kitchen, the food scale. We'll cover some frequently asked questions, as I mentioned. So knowledge is power. So here we go. The purpose of this program is all around creating momentum towards a healthy lifestyle. And we're going to do that by building healthy habits that just make you feel good and that are sustainable way beyond this 30 days. And through this process, it's just going to remind you what a badass you are and that you can do hard things. So let's get into some of the scaffolding, as I call it, and some of the programmatic aspects of this 30-day Healthy Lifestyle Challenge. So daily commitments are the foundation of how we're working through these 30 days. Why is that? Well, because 70% of the reason change doesn't happen is due to our mindset and belief. So we're going to start with our intentions, and we're going to keep promises to ourselves. So by keeping promises, we start to feel confident and we start to build this momentum towards good choices around what we're doing to build a strong mindset about a healthy lifestyle, about how we're moving our bodies, and then the choices we're making about nutrition. So I really strongly encourage you to watch that first video so you get a reminder of how we're doing our daily commitments each day. But the net of it is we're choosing a promise around mindset, one promise around activity, one promise around nutrition. The key is we're making them small and achievable. We want to be checking those boxes. You're sharing this with me or in our private Facebook community or with a friend, someone that can help you stay accountable. If you don't know who that is, just message me and we'll figure it out together. Let's get into some of the basics. So why are we focusing on the nutrition label? One, I think everybody makes the assumption we all know what we're looking at. But I want to make sure that, again, knowledge is power and you can be accountable for those good choices. So when you look at any food that you're eating, you want to be first looking at that label and checking out the serving size. Low-cal foods, in particular, those diet-type foods that are in boxes or bags, typically will tout some big claims, but they're tiny, tiny portions. But just in general, it's really helpful to know what do those calories, what do I get? What's the exchange for those calories? And really use those as a guideline for making decisions about how you're incorporating that food, especially with foods like pasta, nuts, and peanut butter. So start with the serving size, get a glance at that. And we're also going to look at fiber content. I say look at that second. I'm making sure that almost every food I incorporate for snacks and meals that I've got some fiber. It's got some fiber. My guideline is at least 3 grams of fiber. I'm looking for fiber in foods because it makes me feel full, and there's gobs of other phenomenal benefits about incorporating fiber in your diet for immunity, for all sorts of protection around disease. So fiber is your friend. we want to be aiming to 20 to 30 grams of fiber a day. So we're aiming for this. We're going to look at fiber content. And then we're going to look at if the food includes any added sugars. So added sugars literally means that during processing, there is sugar in some form added to make it taste the way that it tastes. So we want to try to aim for zero added sugar or less. My rule of thumb is, unless it's a cheat or a special type of situation, I'm not eating foods that have more than 5 grams of added sugar. All right. And then we're going to validate our protein just to get a check. How much protein am I eating in this meal? Protein, we want to be thinking about pairing our protein or having protein in just about any meal or snack. And it's just a good gauge, like how much am I getting out of this? Because typically Americans, we're not eating enough protein. And there's some guidelines here on the screen about how much protein you want to be eating. Rule of thumb, in total generality, that about 100 grams per day, give or take 80. We want to be thoughtful about too much protein. That is such a thing. And then we're going to check fats. Rule of thumb is that a low-fat food contains about 3 grams of fat or less per serving. So those are some of the things that I look for. The top 3 to me are the most important. How much of this food is in a serving? How much fiber am I getting out of this? And then are there any added sugars? A few other important points. You want to glance at the percent daily value. It's based upon a 2,000 calorie per day diet, but it's just a rule of thumb. If you see anything over 20%, that should flag it as kind of high. For example, take a look at this label. This is actually a label from a really well-known healthy or more organic type of almond butter. And as you can see, we just got to be thoughtful about it. When you're eating foods like nut butters, don't be mistaken. It's not the type of food you want to think of as a protein source. It's a fat source. So we eat 2 tablespoons of almond butter here. We're pretty much getting about our daily value of fat content. So just keep that in mind. A lot of times we don't think about that with peanut butter. It's just this added ingredient you might spread on some bread. So you're glancing at the daily value and you're thinking 20% is considered high, 5% on the low side. And then we're looking at our ingredients. Our first 3 ingredients really make up the largest part of what you're eating. And then if you're seeing things that you don't recognize, OUSE at the end of it, or refined grains, it'll say refined wheat. The word refined or any types of oils or ose at the end is another way of describing sugar. So any of those words should be a flag for the product being unhealthy. Let me just show you a few examples. So we'll stop to share, and I just want to show you, because it's all about choices, like the one choice at a time for healthy choices. So for example, if I'm going to go ahead and eat some pasta, I'm a carb lover. So most often people grab white pasta, the plain pasta off of the shelf. Not a bad choice. We just have to keep in mind, because carbs are not bad. Carbs can be really good for you. We need carbs for energy, in our brain, all sorts of things. But when we're thinking about this pasta, every pasta serving is 2 ounces. That's not a lot. And so, for example, in all of the pasta, measurement in the serving size is measured dry. But this is an example of 1 serving of cooked pasta, okay? And I might choose in the aisle of my grocery store, I might look at other alternatives to see what's the better value for a healthy choice. So for example, I get 2 ounces for 200 calories with this box, and low fat carbs are about 42 grams. It's got 3 grams of fiber, and then it's got 7 grams of protein. So if you've ever wondering why, by the way, you see net carbs is just the subtraction of fiber from the carbs. So that's what I get for this plate of pasta. If I start to choose a healthy alternative, like this lentil pasta, which is really popular, you can buy it in any grocery store, you're going to see that you just get more bang for your buck, so to speak. So same calorie, same serving size, But the carbs, say 32 grams, I've got 3 grams of fiber, so I'm under 20 grams of carbs for my serving of lentil pasta, but I double my protein. So by doubling my protein intake, I'm going to feel more satiated. I've got a great source here of carbs and protein together. So just something to think about. You could also, in an example like this, if you want to feel full, there's a whole strategy of beefing up the volume and adding in, like, for example, I've got zoodles here. You can make zoodles out of really any vegetable. So I'm mixing in my pasta with my zoodles and I get a massive serving increase of fiber again, which will help to make me feel full, and just a great way to sneak in vegetables. So one other example I thought I would show you is tortillas. Again, I mentioned we got to have carbs in our, and whatever we eat, that's the way I think about it. So we can buy a regular tortilla, which has about 140 calories and no fiber, or we can look for alternatives. There's a lot of choices out there. This one has 15 grams of fiber and is half the calories. So I can get 2 of these tortillas and an insane amount of fiber, which you might want to be careful about. But one of these, I get 70 calories and 15 grams of fiber, which is fantastic. Cut them up, bake them, or throw them in the air fryer. You've got some version of healthy tortillas, so lots of options here. All right, so the last thing I want to share with you is a whole idea about our food scale. So why are we going to use a food scale? We're going to use a food scale truly as a temporary tool in our kitchen until we start to get used to seeing the types of portions that we're typically eating. But our food scale, which is very low cost, you can get it off Amazon anywhere. It's like maybe $10 or less. So the food scale is a really helpful tool, especially early on in your kind of healthy lifestyle journey. Again, more for a data point, because we want to start to get familiar with what the serving size actually looks like. We're not going to depend on food scales to measure everything. That is not a sustainable or healthy way to use food scales, but we're going to use them for data points, especially for the high calorie foods like nuts. I will bet you $5 that if you grab a handful of nuts, an ounce is typically a serving. It's not a handful. And you look at what an ounce of cashews versus almonds. So those are the type of things you really want to get familiar with, and how, so your eye can start to see, oh, that's about the right serving size for nuts. You can easily double or triple the amount of calories, but you're thinking, oh, I'm just having a healthy serving of nuts. Same with nut butters. You'd be surprised at how small a tablespoon or a slather on your bread really is. So we're using a food scale early on to make sure we are keeping it real with how much we're eating, as well as helping to train our eye on the type and the size of serving. So it's one of those helpful tools. Again, we want to be thinking about not using this as a long-term strategy, but more of a clear picture of what serving size looks, so you're not mistakenly sort of sabotaging your healthy habits. Excuse me. All right, so a few more things that I thought I'd share is, let me switch back and share the frequently asked questions with you. Make sure I'm not missing anything. So let's take a peek here. All right, so let's look at our frequently asked questions. So these are the top 4 questions I've been asked recently. So what diet should I follow? Well, my philosophy is the behavior diet or the undiet. So every single diet you look at, you insert the diet, will have some very common threads that we are already undertaking through this 30-day healthy lifestyle challenge. So I'm a big believer in the behavior approach, where we're thinking about choices that we make that are healthy overall, and not forcing a particular plan or a particular approach, because that will likely be a short-term solution and not something that fits into our real world, like when we're on the go or when we are taking our kids places. So I'm a big believer that there isn't a one size fits all approach, as well as a particular restrictive or strict type of plan we're following. And there are resources here that review several different strategies or topics related to this. What should I be eating? There are 5 or 7 foods that I highlight in this blog, but some of the things we want to make sure we're having, the 5 might be eggs. Eggs are the kind of superfood, a superpower to your healthy eating, and you'll lean proteins, frozen and fresh vegetables, as well as protein powder, and then also sweet potatoes. So in my opinion, those are the 5 foods you need in your fridge, your go-to, that allow you to have a balanced, healthy diet that will make you feel good and allow it to be sustainable. Should you do a cleanse? Absolutely not. If you want to think about a nutritional approach to that, I've got some ideas on a 3-day nutritional jumpstart, but stay away from the juices and the gimmicks you see online. And how much protein should you be eating? You'll see in the notes here that it's about 0.8 to 1.2 grams per kilogram of weight, which really roughly for a woman that's about 140, 150 pounds, you're around 80 to 100 grams of protein on a daily basis. So you want to aim for that. But again, we're not looking to be exact and specific. We're looking to it's all about consistency, making good choices and aiming for some targets in these areas. So hopefully we've covered some helpful topics for you. I love your feedback. And if you have other questions, just message me or reach out to me, and I'm happy to be support, and would also just love your feedback. Thanks, and make it a great day.